Donna, ready? We'll go ahead and call the Ellis County Commission meeting to order. I'll rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Donna, please call the roll.
Commissioner Butch Schleier.
Present.
Chair, Commissioner Dean Hazelhorst.
Present.
Commissioner Dustin Roth.
Present.
We have a quorum present.
Thank you. Any changes to the order of business this evening? Yes, Phil.
We just have one substitution on the item 6, the tire disposal event. That report will be delivered by Bill Ring. Our landfill foreman had to work tonight. Somebody called in sick, so.
Okay. Thank you. Prior minutes, October 14th, 2019. Any additions, corrections?
Nothing for me.
They look fine.
And approved as presented. Consent agenda items A through G. Need a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion we approve consent agenda items A through G as presented.
I second that.
Donna, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 3-0. Issues from persons not on the order of business this evening. Donna?
Just wanted to share with you that it's been a busy day. I greatly appreciate 4 personnel from the Public Works Department, which helped. We spent all day setting up our 9 voting sites. And of course, with new equipment, it brings new challenges, but things went really smooth. I encourage those that qualified voters that have not voted. The polls open at 7 a.m. tomorrow until 7 p.m. So I encourage everyone to get out and vote and take your proper voter ID like a driver's license. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Moving on, update on half-price tire disposal. Bill Ring.
Mr. Chair?
Yep, sorry. Oh, introduction of new employees. I looked right at it and I totally went right by it. Darren?
Darren Myers, Director of Fire and Emergency Management. As you remember, within the last couple months, we've brought a couple of items to the Commission's agenda. One was for the promotion of a firefighter to lieutenant and a lieutenant to a captain, as well as a new assistant director. So I brought them all 3 with us. I guess I'll just start here on the right. Lyle Pantel is the new assistant director for the department, the full-time employee.
Welcome.
Takes in place of the administrative assistant that moved out with Public Works. Lyle comes with us from 7 years from the Hayes Fire Department. He had about 4 or 5 years of full-time experience and a couple years as volunteer, so that kind of fits in good with our organization. Next, the guy that makes me look the shortest is Matt Lyon. He just got promoted from firefighter to fire lieutenant. He obviously has the red State Farm shirt on. He works as an insurance agent for State Farm, has offices here in Hayes, Ellis, and Waukegan. He's been on for just under 3 years. So you appointed him as a fire lieutenant last month, I believe. And then John Vaughn on my back left. He comes to us from Step Energy Services. He's a lead operator. And he's been on the department combined between Munger and Hayes for just under 9 years. So I just wanted to bring them to you. And Matt said he had a quick speech he wanted to give.
Come on. Guys, welcome. Thank you all very much for being part of our county, even though you have been in the past, but welcome again tonight to promotion and for being here.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you, Darren. Update on half-price tire disposal, Mr. Bill Ring.
Good evening, Commissioners. Bill Ring, Director of Public Works. As our county administrator pointed out, Mr. Reuter unfortunately has to stay and get things closed down tonight. So he called and I told him I'd be here. So anyway, you have an agenda item in front of you. Nothing is required on it. It's just a quick overview of how well we feel the tire event went, bringing things in. You know, Vern has tried for the last couple of years since he got there to find some grants like we used to get. And unfortunately, it's just grants have become harder and harder to come by, and we still continue to look. So a few months ago, the commission approved doing this where we would just charge half the cost of what we normally would to try to get people to bring in more tires. On a full month, on the average, we bring in 3 tons of tires. We brought in 30 ton of tire in 2 weeks. So it was a busy place, but it's well worth it. And all the tires, we'll want to make sure we point out that all the tires are recycled. They go to a recycler that comes in, and then they're, made into different products. So when it was all said and done, we had a cost of approximately $500 in it, which I think is money well spent to keep them out of the ditches and not create, environment for mosquitoes or creating, rural fire, more problems, things like that. And when you approve this before, you approved it so that we can do this again. So we're already trying to set up for next year. We had a lot of positive response from the community, a lot of phone calls about it. We had it pretty well on social media, the county website and whatnot. So we had, I think, a good turnout. And we may consider asking you to go 3 weeks next year, just to, if we're, doing that good to bring, that out of the county.
So it's officially over, right?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Okay, great. Can't imagine we took that many tires. I mean, that's a
Yeah.
lot of tires. Wow.
Very good.
33 tons is a lot of tire when you figure they're, 60 pounds a piece on the average for a car tire or whatever.
Yeah, that's a lot of tires.
So with that,
Should
like I
make
said,
our
we'll
county
plan.
Cleaner, right?
And I will point this out, and when Vern does get back, and he can kind of give you more of a update, and you'll see it in your report. Doing this before the citywide cleanup, and that's what we're going to gear towards for next year as well, because they don't pick tires up. So as people are putting out the debris in their alleyways and cleaning their garages and stuff, if they know that they at least could bring it out to the landfill and we could take it for free, I think that those two projects work hand in hand together.
Yep, good work.
Any questions?
I'm just amazed at the number of tires. That's a lot of tires.
Keep up the good work.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Very good.
Thank you, Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
Health Department, MOU, Health Services Director, Carrie.
I chased them all away. Good evening, Commissioners, Phil, Donna, and Mike. This item is a required document from the Public Health Emergency Preparedness Grant. That's a grant that brings in a little over $24,000 a year to us. Basically, what it says is that the health department has to have a alternate location should something happen because of natural disaster or unexpected situation that might cause our current facility not to be functional. So I talked with County Administrator Philip Smith-Haynes, and he suggested 601 Main. I also thought about this facility, but obviously on Monday nights it's a problem. I went down and talked to the Extension office, and they were okay with should, God forbid, should anything like that ever happen, that they haven't done a lot of changes on that side of the building, so we could actually kind of slip back in there if we needed to in a pinch. So this document then will just be filed with the rest of our grant information, and we'll move forward. So with that, I would ask that the chair be allowed to sign this document. Thank you.
Taken care of. That's the original. Mm-hmm. That's for you.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, you want me to sign that one too?
This is the one I need you.
Oh, it's right here too. Thank you.
Was there any questions about that?
I have no objections to that. It's fine by me.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next item, contract for health administrator, County Administrator Philip Smith Haynes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, as the commission is aware, Mr. McHugh has decided to leave us later this year, and the commission earlier this year selected Jason Kennedy, currently the Assistant Director in EMS, for the EMS Director position, and sort of decided that we should stick with the model of having the EMS Director also serve as the Health Administrator via contract. So this is essentially the same contract language that was used for Mr. McHugh. The contract is at a slightly lower rate than what we were paying Mr. McHugh on the Health Department side. In exchange for that, Mr. Kennedy has requested the same pay step that Mr. McHugh had and on the EMS side. So asking the commission to take 3 actions this evening. First, to sign a letter to Mr. McHugh officially terminating that contract. Second, to approve the placement of Mr. Kennedy at step 14 of the applicable pay grade effective on December 15th. And third, to approve the contract. And I'd be happy to answer questions.
Questions, Butch?
No, I don't have any questions. I think it's pretty much as has been discussed.
Dustin?
No questions from me. I think the idea that we get some savings, I'm very confident in Jason's ability to take over this much. I mean, obviously, this is a lot of positions, as is indicated by the way our pay structure is set up. You know, we did this study, and we now are forced to find a health director and a EMS director that can handle both of those roles. And I honestly think we're pretty lucky to have Jason Kennedy be able to take over these roles. It was good forethought by county administrator and past commissions to bring him on, and you know, just speaking with him a little bit about his abilities, and obviously he's a paramedic and also has some firefighter background. I think we're pretty lucky to have him take over the job, and thank God at a little bit of savings because he doesn't have quite the amount of tenure that Kerry has, you know. But I have full confidence in what he can do.
Thank you. Anything else?
No, that's it from me.
I guess the only real problem I have, and I know he's got experience, he comes from a well-rounded background. I do have a little problem because looking forward and looking back both, we have a lot of other department heads and elected officials that do more than one job in our county. And I know we've asked him to take over the health department, which we asked Kerry to do the same for a savings. And that is a big responsibility. I'm not real familiar with the health department and how it runs, but I know Kerry kind of enlightened us a lot on what goes there, and so is Butch for his past experience. Thank you, Butch, for all the years you served in that area. And now we just have one person doing both jobs. And I really think going forward, like in the very near future, we need to look at all of our department heads and elected official salaries, because we have some that are running 3 and 4 departments under one leadership, and they're not anywhere near a step 14. So I think we really need to look at this going forward and make it happen very quickly.
Yeah, I agree with you, Dean. I think we
Figure out
need to
how we're
give
gonna
that
do that.
consideration.
Because, you know, I know Jason comes in with 1 year in Ellis County experience. We have many other people that have a lot more experience, and they aren't to that level. So we do need to figure out how we're going to correct that. Under my leadership, we need to figure out very soon.
Sure.
It needs to be on the agenda. We do need a motion. Let's see, do we need 3 motions to approve everything, or just 2?
I got a sample motion there for you that includes all three of those, if you want to just.
Oh, that would do
Yeah.
it all. Okay.
Okay.
I'll make the motion. I move that the commission authorize the chair to sign the attached letter, approve placement of Jason Kennedy at step 14 of the EMS director pay grade, effective December 15th, 2019, and approve the attached contract.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? None? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? 1. Motion carries 2-1. Moving on. County Administrator Philip Smith Haynes again, consent, actually, he gets every item on the agenda tonight.
Yeah, I have
Position
a few of
allocation
them.
option, I'm sorry, consent to annexation of county property, city
Nope,
pays.
nope, you were right the first time.
Allocations.
Oh, allocation, let's do the allocation, there you
Yeah,
go.
there you go.
Thank you.
So this comes to the commission at your request to provide some different options for how you could increase a position in the health department that has been budgeted for next year at a 6/10 of a full-time equivalent back up to the full-time equivalent, 1.0 full-time. That would be a cost of $14,304 beyond what is budgeted. There are 5 different options that I've detailed in the report, and I'd be happy to answer questions.
And this is the person that's working there part-time now, correct? That we'd be moving to? Maybe not.
Sure. I mean,
No, it could
my
be.
understanding is that that individual is interested in full-time.
Okay.
Certainly people have choices, and if that person elected to go somewhere else, then they would
So will this,
different
will
person.
this fall under, Jason will be approving that person or looking for people to fill that, or will that be Carrie yet?
If you wanted to approve something prior to December, then it would be
Be under Carrie.
Carrie, and if you wanted to wait, it would be under Jason. As noted in the report, it is authorized at full time this year. The question is really a 2020 question.
So I didn't know if it was this year meant before or after Carrie leaves when it said this year. That's, guess I should
Well,
have.
this year goes back to January 1st. So this was a full-time position on January 1 of this year. The individual who was in it left. That position was not refilled pending the budget. You budgeted at a 0.6 for 2020. So we refilled for the remainder of this year at that 0.6. That could be increased back to 1.0 for this year at any point. The question is how you fund it for next year if it gets increased back to that 1.0.
Okay. Everybody understand all that?
Yes, I do.
Got any questions, Butch?
Well, since we had some discussion on this, I have given this some considerable thought.
Okay.
And it seems to me, it's my perception that we are rapidly approaching a crossroads with our public health department. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I would
And-
agree.
And so, just a brief bit of history about our health department. When I started at the health department in 1994, we had 2 clerks and 2 nurses, of which I was one. We also had a part-time nurse who was dedicated just to the WIC program. Through the years, as our programs and services increased, we reached a level where we had 5 clerks, we had 3 full-time nurses, and we had a part-time nurse dedicated to the WIC program. Must have been 10 or 12 years ago, something like that. The whole healthcare model started to change to where it was looking more at the prevention and the model of the medical home. And when that all came into play, services that were basically just done by the health department at one time were now spread out over the entire healthcare system for the most part. There are very few services left what were just exclusive to the health department. That model made vaccinations available to pharmacists and to all the physicians, and the reimbursements were such that people really got on board. In addition to that, physicals, as once were the Medicaid physicals, as once were just dedicated to the health department, were now spread across physicians as well as chiropractors, and it spread those out. To a point, health departments weren't even allowed to do them unless we had a mid-level practitioner on board. So that whole, everything changed. And we found ourselves competing very much for services. And I will use the word competing. We did compete. We worked real hard to try to maintain what we could, and what we lost, we just tried to fill in where we could. A couple of years before I retired, we lost a clerk, and I never replaced her. Well, several years back, we lost our WIC nurse. She decided to retire. We never replaced her. We simply restructured the department to accommodate. I lost a clerk a couple of years before retirement. We never replaced her. I lost another clerk the year I retired. We never replaced her. Then I retired, and we replaced me with a part-time administrator who was no longer a nurse. And Kerry found himself in a situation where he had to terminate a position, and we only hired that person back at part-time. And I was wondering how he could even maintain a health department given that part-time clerical position. Because I know given the operations and the amount of PTO time everyone gets, it can just be most difficult. In fact, as we started having to let people go, we went from being open through the lunch hour to have to close through the lunch hour. We just couldn't maintain that level of service. And so as I look at this whole thing, I really think Kerry needs that part-time position to be full-time in order to maintain a decent standard of operations for the health department, or that department will just continue to, I guess, dwindle as you try to fill with part-time staff who don't stay, and that whole thing. And so I believe it's necessary to make that person part-time. As the Board of Health, which we are, it's in our best interest, it's in the community's interest to have a functional health department. During my course as health administrator, we had surveillance activities due to communicable disease that took everyone in my office involved. We had to cancel almost everything to go out and do surveillance as necessary and as directed by the state of Kansas. So a functional, viable health department is important to the community as well as to the Board of Health, because the responsibility ultimately comes back on us guys. And so when this issue was brought to my attention, like I said, I gave it a lot of thought. And I really believe we need to do this. As I visited with Kerry right away about this thing, we both knew that the revenues were up, and I would, based on those revenues, because services have increased, that's why he does need the staff, because if he wants to maintain a level of services to get that revenue, we should look at this and look at the revenue as the source, republish the budget, use that revenue, and go down that road. That's kind of my thoughts on it. So,
Okay. Dustin, thoughts?
Thanks, Butch. I mean, as far as giving
history there, thank you.
giving us a snapshot of what that department has looked like over the years. Something that I found really interesting, and there's the part where you ended up needing to compete so heavily with the private market, and it's been probably one of my contentions with the health department from the very beginning. I think I've tried to make myself clear about governance in the sense that when other people are doing something, we try our best to stay out of it and let them do as good as the free market or semi-free market will allow. At the same time, I would agree with you in the sense that if we're going to do this and we dumb it down so much that the service isn't there and we have employees that are being pushed to the brink of leaving us, things like that, then we end up looking at something that isn't a viable thing to even have around in its current structure. That being said, similarly with me, thinking about how we can do this, my thought process was more along the lines of a single month before we completely switch directors and have a whole new set of eyes on that department. So I don't know how you guys would feel about. I'm not opposed to this. I wouldn't say I would be. I would say I would like to have it looked at as this month or so left of transition as Carrie starts showing the inner workings of the health department to Jason and getting him some access to what's going on. That Jason, probably to your point a little bit before, is that Jason has a say in this, and I think maybe Carrie can answer this. Do we have some hours involved with this employee that is possibly interested in full-time in terms of training?
First of all, let me clarify something earlier. The employee that currently is in the position was interviewed as a possible full-time employee because we started the process when the previous one left. So they felt like thought they were interviewing for a full-time position. When I called her back, I advised her that it was a 2/3 position, not a full-time. She did accept it at that point. She does want full-time. We do have training on the WIC program. I don't know how you would quantify some of those dollars that we've spent on training, because it's her time, it's the other employees, but there's a lot of time, as Butch can attest, in learning the WIC program and other processes that we do in the health department, even simple vaccinations and KDHE's KIPS program and all of that. So we have time and energies and monies invested in her training. We've sent her to a couple educational things for the WIC program out of town. One of my concerns is that that position will continue to be a merry-go-round. She wants full-time, she needs full-time. She's going to eventually, or anyone in that position, take the current personalities out of it. They're going to find something to move on, and then we'll start all over. We'll be spending more money on training, and eventually that person will leave, because you're going to have to find the right person to be just a part-time person. A perfect example of that is the current position in the appraiser's office. Look how many times that position has come open in the last several years. So you spend time and energies and monies on these people and training them, and you lose our best assets, and then that's our employees. One of the other concerns I have is and Butch alluded to this, Commissioner Slatter alluded to this, if the current full-time person at the counter, front desk, goes on PTO and she is just requested to go off on 12th through the 14th, I got 3 hours a day that there's no one at the front desk. And that'd be like having the treasurer's office with no one at the counter to meet someone there to buy a car tag. Or that'd be like a private business in the community having no one there to meet them when they came in the door. So it's an operational issue for me, and it's not, I respect your question about waiting 30 days. It's not going to change in 30 days. it's still going to be there. That person is going to still only have 3/4 time. We're still going to have the 3 hours a day open, and we may lose this person that we've trained that wants to be there, that's a good fit, that does a great job. So I can tell you that this individual has applied for another position within the county structure already, because it's a full-time position.
Okay, couple things, don't run away.
I'm trying.
With that, when she goes on PTO the 12th through the 14th, is there a chance Jason could go out there and be that person for 3 hours and kind of start to learn more of the workings so he's familiar with the workload that's out there?
I don't think there's a chance to do that, but I don't think that is the position. Those aren't the things that Jason needs to learn about the health department.
I realize that, but
I
has he
can
had
tell
much-
you,
has he got to spend much time out there yet?
we've talked about certain things, and those are the next 45 days is to be moving back and forth between agencies. I can tell you that I don't know the inner workings of the KIP software. That's not something that he will probably need to know, that inner workings with as he moves forward, because he's got other things bigger, more important that he needs to deal with.
So to answer my question, he has not really spent any time out there yet in the transition?
No.
Okay, thank you. Good enough? Okay. Butch, I appreciate all your insight on this. I mean, I can see where you're coming from. I can see where Carrie's coming from. I can also see where Dustin's coming from, you know, giving Jason a chance to view the inner workings of this if he hasn't been there yet. I know we're throwing him into a whole nother department. Thank you, Jason, for taking that. Not sure we gave you a choice, but thank you. But
Yeah, and I would say administration is you know, that would be a big question. I think is my biggest concern is we do spend a lot of time and effort getting people trained in these positions, and if we're at a part-time position, is there something that's a little bit more menial work that could be done so that we're not overtraining or spending money on training if we kept a position part-time or even had 2 part-time positions in order to facilitate the idea of us not having a full benefits package, as you know the expense of that.
I have to cover the front counter. And this year, because the position was budgeted full-time, I don't have a problem this year.
Okay.
Because it is budgeted full-time. Example, last week, we did a flu clinic. When we do a flu clinic, when we go out to another business, and we do quite a bit of these this time of year, we take a clerical person so that they can enter the information, and then the clinical person so that they can do the actual vaccinations. The full-time person went to this particular one. I was able to bring in the 2/3 person and fill the front counter. Or next week, when that person goes on PTO, I will be able to bring her in. I have the flexibility in this year's budget to bring her in early because there's monies allotted to do that. In next year's budget, those dollars are not there. There is not that flexibility. It is a 2/3 position only. And the other thing that I have flexibility this year with is that the nurse practitioner position was originally supposed to be a full-time position this year. Well, we chose not to do that earlier. Probably it was actually, I think, before you came on. I don't remember the timing, but the commission made the decision not to make that a full-time position. So I have some flexibility there too. In next year's budget, the nurse practitioner has an 18-hour week schedule. So there's no, I don't like the word cushion, but there's no flexibility there to move that. I will tell you, to answer your question, Dean, Jason has been out there a couple times, has had some contact with those employees, but he's not bouncing back and forth like I am at this point.
Carrie, you could probably speak to our statutory requirement in terms of a health department. Can you tell me what the minimum statutory requirement is for a health department?
Well, I
Or
think-
probably Commissioner Slyer.
I think Commissioner Slyer even addressed this even in Victoria. Basically, the statutory requirement is surveillance.
of
I will-
communicable diseases.
Yeah, I will attest to his comment 2 weeks after I took the position. I couldn't even spell measles yet, and we had a possible measles case at Fort Hays. It took all of the staff that we had then, which was 2 nurses, 2 clerical person, and a billing person at that time, to step up, and myself, and we all were involved in trying to figure some of that stuff out and get it handled. Thank goodness it turned out to be negative. It wasn't something we had to deal with very long, but shortly after that, there's several months possible cases that
Okay.
took some investigations, and those are very consuming events by several staff members. I mean, yeah, then somebody's on the phone or going out to visit with someone
Right.
pretty much for several days.
And just looking, Dustin, so you know, if we wait till after Jason's on board for 30 days, that puts us into 2020 because the 4th Monday of December, we
Right.
don't meet.
Right.
So if we don't approve it in the next, whatever,
Week
4
or two.
weeks, you're going to wait till January.
And Chair, my request would probably be to give us a week to have me look at. This is a lot of information to chew on.
And I
and
actually
it's-
got some questions for Jason. Maybe I'll call him in the next couple of days and visit with him too. I'd like to have it on next week's agenda, Phil.
Not possible. There is no meeting next week.
Or is it?
KAC next week.
We have the
KC
11th.
don't start till Tuesday.
That's correct. And Monday's a federal holiday. We are not having a meeting next week.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
It's been scheduled since
Veterans
January.
Day. So
I
the
see.
next,
So you're going to
Be
wait till
happy to bring
December.
this back on the 18th or the first meeting in December.
I'd like it on the 18th, please.
or on the 18th. That'll
Are
give
you
us
okay
time.
with that?
Sure, I'm fine with
Okay.
that.
Let's look into that. Thank you.
Yes. Carrie, well, if you want to come back on the 18th, we'll discuss it further with them, but I want to talk to Jason between now and then, so,
Okay,
Thank you.
Carrie.
thank you.
perfect. Let's see, back to the county administrator show, consent to annexation of county property, City of Hayes.
Yes, so this item concerns a request from the city of Hayes. They have been approached by a private developer about a travel plaza northwest of town adjacent to I-70 and exit 157, or as we know it, 230th and 55th Street. They are seeking consents from affected property owners for annexing that property in order to provide municipal utilities for the travel plaza. They're seeking consent, obviously, from the developer and the property owner there, also from Celebration Community Church across the road. I believe they're also seeking a consent from the Dunan property. They wouldn't normally be seeking a consent from us because customarily county road rights of way are not owned by the county. They're just perpetual easements. But in this case, we actually purchased a portion of the land underlying 55th Street just east of the intersection, and so they do need a consent from us as well. Once they receive consents from each of the affected property owners, they would return to your commission, hopefully at the December 2nd meeting, for approval of the non-adjacent annexation. Be happy to answer questions.
And did that include, I think it's 14 acres there of the Dunan property? I was looking at our little map here, but I think it did, but I'm not 100% sure. Did that include the whole thing or just that corner?
No, sir.
Whole thing?
No. It's
No.
just the right-of-way.
Oh, it's just the right-of-way only? Okay. Because I didn't see the Dunan property drawn out on our map, so I didn't,
Well, we wouldn't do a consent for them, so,
well,
yeah.
okay. All right, any questions, gentlemen?
No, I don't have any.
And for me, this looks pretty cut and dry.
Motion?
Yeah, I move the commission approve the annexation to the city of Hayes of county-owned property as described on the attached document.
I'll second that motion.
Donna, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 3-0. Moving on, motor vehicle authorized signatures. County Administrator.
Yes, so there's been some recent confusion about how we should be titling vehicles and who should be authorized to sign the titles once your commission approves getting rid of a vehicle. We've found titles that are in all sorts of various iterations. Some are Board of County Commissioners, some are the Ellis County Highway Department. So in discussing this at the executive team meeting, all the department heads agreed that we should be titling all of the vehicles in the name of Ellis County, Kansas, and that we should have a list of authorized signers on file with the county treasurer, and that would include each of the department heads, myself or my successor, and the elected officials. I'd be happy to answer questions.
Looks like a good deal to me. Commissioners?
I think so too.
Dustin?
Yeah, I think this clears a lot of things up. I like this.
Makes it simple.
Need a motion?
Need a motion, please.
I'll move that the commission authorize department heads, elected officials, and the county administrator to sign motor vehicle titles on behalf of Ellis County and authorize the chair to sign the attached letter.
I second that.
Now we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries 3-0. County Commission, or actually a County Administrator report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The only thing I was going to mention is something that we've said already, which is there is no county commission meeting next week. County commissioners will be at the Kansas Association of Counties Conference Tuesday through Thursday. We will next meet again for the election canvass on the 14th, and then the next regularly scheduled meeting on November 18th.
Thank you. Do you need to talk? Mr. Dreest?
Good evening. Tom Drees, Ellis County Attorney. Sorry I was late. We had a busy day in court today. But I had arranged for Aaron Cunningham to come down and introduce him to you. He's the newest Assistant Ellis County Attorney. Born and raised here. Father Dana is an architect at Fort Hays State University. So Aaron joined us in August. He has passed the bar. He's been down. He is sworn in. And we're working him to
He's
death.
official.
He's official.
Welcome.
The
Thank you
introduction
for
to
joining
Aaron
Ellis County. Have a few words you want to say or not?
Just thank you for
Most
the-
attorneys do. That's why I asked you, because Tom Drees never
That's
lacks for
true.
words. So I figured I'd let you have your minute.
Well, all I want to say is thanks for the opportunity to work in this county, and I look forward to serving it. So,
Thank you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you. Nice to meet you.
Tom, you could take notes, man, a few words.
I think that's why he's an assistant Ellis.
You never know. County Commission reports, Dustin.
Just a couple things to report on. Officially, I'm a graduate of Leadership Kansas 2019. I made it through somehow, but truly blessed to be a part of that class and was amongst some really great people that I got to meet in that, and some unbelievable experiences. I will be nominating a few people to apply, and I hope if I nominate them, they do apply for something that was one of the better experiences of my adult professional career. I want to make an announcement that the Downtown Hayes Development Corporation, of which while I was close to being late for this meeting, I'm on their executive team, won multiple awards in the last few weeks. So if you get a chance to look on their social media page, they will be presenting to the city of Hayes, and I thought I might have them come present to us just to show the kind of things that they're getting state, national, and international recognition for some of the things that they've done in downtown Hayes. I want to remind everybody to get out and vote tomorrow if you haven't already, at the building here. And, this is your opportunity to, say your piece with one fill-in of a little bubble. So I encourage everybody to do that. I think that's all I have.
I have no report.
And with Dustin's comment, I'm sure many of you listen to Eagle Radio. Gary Shorman's been on there, I don't know how many times a day, but he has a great message about going out to vote. I thought that was really good. So, Jonathan, if you see your leader, pass that on. He did an awesome job with that promotion. That was really good. The only thing I have a K-Work conference call tomorrow at 2 o'clock from 2 to 3. And if you guys get a chance when you go to KAC next week, I may ask for your vote. I'm going to be on the ballot for the KAC governing board. So
Great.
they asked me to serve on there, or at least throw my name in there. So if you have any friends, you might, throw a little support my way.
Will do.
That's all I have. Anything else? Seeing none, we will adjourn at, I think it's 5:45, isn't it? 5:45. 5:46 actually, just turned. Let's go 5:46. Make it official.
You want to hand those to Dustin?
Yep, Dustin, you got a few to sign?
Okay, Butch.